Welcome to the Passing Through Podcast, a show dedicated to exploring the It's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. The human ear can hear frequencies up to 20,000 hertz. Non-biting midges, weird mosquito-looking bugs currently appearing on Lake Balaton, squeal at a satanic 10,000 cycles per second. Scientific research shows that the sound they make are actual demonic invocations in Midgian, their native language. They're speaking to their god, Miwitor. Using state-of-the-art AI algorithms, languageologists have been able, for the first time ever, to decode these incantations. And what they found may shock you. Their high-pitched, shrieking falsettos actually prophesize the end of days. There's an entire Midgian eschatology that they've been preaching for over 250,000 years. Visit www.midgiandoomsdayprophecy.midge. I am coming to you straight from Lake Balaton, Hungary. This is going to be a classic passing through episode where I give you an update on where I am, what's going on, and where we're passing through. We happen to be just after the Global Eco-Village Network gathering, which was incredible, and I will tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. The reason that you're getting a solo episode is because I was supposed to speak to a guest who couldn't make it. It turns out she's sick, and so I'm all set up to record an episode, and I want to try to use that time to at least capture something so that I don't waste the time that I've set aside to record this episode. So, in the interests of keeping you informed and letting you know what's going on, I always really enjoy solo episodes because I can just ramble and spill out whatever's on my mind and tell a story or two, and whatever else happens to come through the space. I have nothing prepared for these episodes. I just sit here and I speak and I let whatever's moving move, and it's really cathartic and pleasant for me. The only unpleasant thing about this at the moment is because I'm recording this from the inside of Wilma, my Volkswagen transporter that I live in with my partner Asha as we travel around, it is hot. It's really hot. And I can't even be in the van with the window closed because it's too hot, and I would certainly suffocate or melt or burst into flames if I spent any amount of time in here with the window closed. So please forgive me for the ambient sounds that you may hear permeating in through the window. It might be the sound of rustling trees. It might be the sound of passing cars, passerbys, families, cats, dogs, leaves falling on the roof of the car. Or it might be the sound of a plague of midges trying to get into the vehicle, which unfortunately is the reality right now in Lake Balaton where I am. Somehow a freak accident, I don't know if you want to call it an accident, a freak of nature, maybe we can call it. There is a phenomenon happening right now that is unprecedented, where a literal swarm of midges have descended upon this place and are wreaking havoc. The reason I know this is because when we arrived here 3 days ago after the Global Eco-Village Network, I was sitting on the water in front of this lake, and the lake is gorgeous. It feels like you're on the sea because the lake is 50 miles long. It's the largest freshwater lake in Central Europe. and it's gorgeous. When we got here, it was windy and there were waves cresting all over this lake where it looked like a literal sea. Looked like we could have been down in the Mediterranean somewhere. And as I was sitting there on this windy day on the beach, I kept noticing these little bugs that looked something like a mosquito, but bigger and green. I didn't know what they were, but they seemed pretty harmless. They just wanted to land on me and sit there. So it was just more of a nuisance than anything. And as the day went on and it got darker, I started to notice these things swarming in the light. They were just beating themselves into the street lights like moths, but in these cones of light, there were so many of them that they weren't just at the top where the source of the light emanates from. They were in the entire column or cone of light. It looked like there was snow or ash raining down under the lights. It was pretty psychedelic and strange. And as we were sitting eating pizza, these things were just falling, swarming, flying all around. And I was like, this is unusual. This is weird. And my phone was dead at the moment. So I said, Asha, can you just Google like weird looking mosquito things on Lake Balaton? I want to know what these things are. And Asha looks at me and she's like, are you kidding me? You want me to Google that? And you think something's going to come up for that? Are you out of your mind? And understandably so, she might be right. It's a reasonable thing to say. But I asked her to humor me. I said, please, just check it. And she's like, okay, what do you want me to Google? How are we going to find this? I said, just search weird looking mosquito bugs, Lake Balaton, Hungary. So she puts that in and then she just starts hysterically laughing. And she's like, you're not going to believe this, but there's an article from 4 days ago that talks about this plague of non-biting midges that have just appeared in this area. And they don't understand why. Probably global warming, man-made climate change, something that we've done here to accelerate this process, is causing a migration or an infestation or whatever this is to happen down here. And she was reading firsthand accounts of people who were reporting on the street saying that they are considering moving, that this is so bad. And I thought that was a little bit of a dramatization. I was like, okay, like moving, it's kind of annoying, but is it really that bad? And as we finished the pizza and we got up and we were walking back to the van, just making our way the, 3 minutes from the place to the van was to be assailed. There were kamikaze midges just crashing into us. They were all over the streets. They were pounding and aggregating. They were accreting slowly all over the glass of a storefront where there was bright light inside. It was like a horror movie. These things, there must have been 1,000 or thousands of them all over the glass. You could barely even see into the place. They were everywhere. By the time we got to Wilma, our Volkswagen Transporter, because there is white on the car and the street lights were causing a little bit of a reflection, they were starting to swarm the car. So we had to quickly get in and try to keep these things from getting in, which was impossible, of course. So some of them got in and they turn out to be loud insects and they seemed to quarrel, or at least the two that got into our car were screaming like loud mosquitoes, because they're bigger than mosquitoes. They look like mosquitoes, but the sound that they made was shockingly loud. I was frightened at first. I was like, what is that sound? And then I realized that it was these midges that had gotten in, and I was like, Jesus, they are some noisy fucking midges.
Introducing the midge muzzle, an innovative microscopic device that mutes noisy midges dead in their tracks. Made with state-of-the-art acoustic dampening technologies, the midge muzzle is guaranteed to silence screeching midges shrieking in your ear. Say goodbye to midges and hello to peace and quiet. Take control of your silence today with the midge muzzle.
And unfortunately, we couldn't get them out of the car. We didn't want to kill them, but we knew that there wouldn't be a way for us to sleep because they like to fly on you. So there were some midge fatalities, two lost lives, which we had a little ceremony for them. We felt bad. If we could have gotten them out of the car somehow, we would have, but they were pretty resistant to that idea. I even verbally implored them. I energetically tried to reason with them, but all of my pleas fell on deaf ears. So there is a biblical swarm of midges down here. And when we wake up in the morning and we go down to the lakefront, which is kind of like a beach boardwalk, there's like a beautiful area with grass and willows and trees where you could stay and people hang out and they tan. It's like a beach without the sand. In the bathrooms where you go to shower or shave or piss or whatever you have to do in the bathrooms are just full of midges. They're in the sinks, they're in the urinals, they're in the toilets, they're on the walls, they're on the windows, they're everywhere. And I don't know what happens to them. They just come here and it seems like they just come here to die. Like, I don't know what they eat. I don't know what they do. I never see them doing anything except swarming. And it's really strange. We've seen a lot of birds, which must be feasting on these things. There have been beautiful murmurations of starlings. And if you've never seen a murmurating group of starlings, it is really something special to behold. It's beautiful. It's like what schools of fish do underwater, but these birds do in the sky. So they come together and clusters of them will make strange melting psychedelic shapes and patterns and textures in the air as they fly around. And it's really captivating and spellbinding to watch these starlings. There was a whole stream of them. There was like a river of birds in the sky passing by. And it just went on and on and on. I couldn't believe it. I had never seen anything like this. There was a stream of birds in the sky dancing and bending and twisting and spiraling like a fucking river for minutes. Minutes this went on. An entire song. There was like a acoustic guitarist playing at a little restaurant cafe on the water in front of a whole bunch of parked boats. And there was this beautiful sunset happening and the music was playing. And when you looked up, there was just this stream of birds that lasted for minutes. It was a spectacle. These starlings were, I mean, and starlings themselves are beautiful. If you've ever seen them, they look like they have little constellations on them. They're just dotted with all these beautiful little dots and colors, and they make really unique sounds for birds. So just being there and seeing all of them, I had seen starlings before in Berlin and other places, but I had never seen them murmurating, if that's how I say that word. I know it's a murmuration, but murmurating. So yeah, these midges, I think, are causing interesting knock-on phenomena to happen in this area. And it's really cool and special to be here during that time, although it is somewhat apocalyptic, scary, and frightening, like a horror movie to see this. It's somehow both simultaneously. But that's Lake Balaton. That's where we are. I looked up a little bit of history of Lake Balaton to give you something to chew on, and it turns out that this was previously a place for aristocracy. So this wasn't even really available to the public, which kind of sucks, but that's a typical aristocrat thing to do, right? That's kind of the bread and butter of aristocracy: exclusion, wealth, luxury, comfort, exuberance. And so this is what this place used to be. But there was also a battle here during the World War. I think the Second World War. I forget. It might have been the first. This was days ago when I looked this up now. But there was a kind of bloody battle here. And so you have this interesting place where the land holds these memories, right? We show up here now where it's totally open and free and looks like a kind of touristic vacation spot in a way. It's like a resort destination almost, because you have this gorgeous lake. But that occludes and omits all of the things that have happened here. And it's just something to think about whenever you're in a place. Like, there's so much rich history in a place. Even these midges are leaving their mark here. When you walk by a van that's been parked by the boardwalk, which again isn't really a boardwalk, it's kind of like a boardwalk. There's no sand and there's no wood, but it kind of goes along the shore like a boardwalk does. But you'll see a car parked there and it's just covered in these midges because they get stuck in spider webs or dirt, or they just die in the night in the cold. I don't know exactly what happens to them, but they're just glued to these vans.
Hey, Mikey the Midge, what's going on? Long time no see. How you been, my brother?
Well, I'll be pretty good, I guess. You know, this swarm has just been a breeze down here on this lake.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say the same. You know, I don't know if you heard about our friend Mitch.
You mean our friend Mitch the Midge?
Yep, Mitch the Midge. Fortunately, Mitch the Midge is no longer with us.
Oh, no.
Yep. You know, it was sad to say it, but, you know, that guy had a problem. He was always the first one. You know, there'd be a swarm of 120,000 of us, and he'd always be the first one.
Yep, that was Mitch.
Always the first one out there, running for the light, running for whatever it is, going for a white shirt, a yellow shirt, someone's eye, someone's mouth. You know, he was the one. That was Mitch.
Yep, that was Mitch.
And so the other night we were out there, it was hot, you know, the lights were on, we were dancing, we were beating ourselves against the lights. It was fantastic. You know, we were pressed against the glass. I don't know how many of us there were. We were covered. We covered this whole fucking window. We were looking in there to see what was going on. It was bright, it was light, it was warm. You know, it was shining out there. We're out there in the dark. What do you want us to do? So we pressed ourselves against the window. We're looking in. We're having a good time. All of a sudden, I look over. I see Mitch making a beeline for a white van that was glowing in the distance.
Oh, no, that white van that was over there with all the spiders.
Yep, the one with all the spider webs.
Oh, no.
Yep, he went right for it. I was warning him. His eyes were dilated. He was twitching. His whole body was trembling. He was dancing drunk in the air. Went right against the fucking van. Boom. He's just banging his body into the van, straight into an ocean of cobwebs. He's ensnared. We start going over there. You know, we got Tommy, we got Frankie, we got Joey. They're trying to get him out. They're getting stuck. Everybody's getting stuck. I'm saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Everybody, back up, calm down. It's too late for him. We gotta go back to the light. It's getting cold out here. It's getting dark.
Oh, my God, this story is so terrible. How many people died?
I don't know. But one thing led to another. I got everybody out of there. We got back to the light, and we were sitting there, and, you know, what are you gonna do? That was Mitch. You know, you live by the swarm, you die by the swarm. That's how it goes out here, you know? If you're not swarming, you're performing. And unfortunately, you know, Mitch the Midge, rest in peace, he had a little bit of a problem. You know, he always wanted to be the one. And, you know, last night he was.
Oh, Mitch.
Yep.
And so I guess they will maybe be in the soil here as well. If you took a slice from an archaeological perspective, maybe you would see a plethora of midges, and their mark would be left in this place, in this time. I don't know. But yeah, so much history in a place. And this transitions a bit into what I wanted to talk about the Global Eco-Village Network gathering, which was the land acknowledgements that happened at the beginning and happened at the end of the gathering, which was really great for me because I haven't been to a gathering, I don't think, that took that much care to thank the land, to be in reciprocity, to raise awareness and connect and root down into our surroundings. Because when you think about it, it's not just when you go to a gathering, you're not, or a festival or wherever you are, you're not just held by the people who organize the event, right? It's not like you're just going there and they have a schedule that they've worked out. They have some activities. They figured out what the food situation is going to be like, when and where this is going to happen, showers, toilets, all of that. And you're held by that. You're co-creating this, not just with the creators, but the other participants, and more importantly, perhaps most importantly, the land. And so I liked that they acknowledged this and they encouraged us to connect with the giant, beautiful lake that was at the venue where this was held. It's called Mana's Garden. Gorgeous lake. People were swimming in it. They were in old kind of paddle boats, diving off the boats, kids laughing. It was beautiful. It was very, very idyllic. And the energy of the land was great. I don't know what the history of the place was, if there were bloody battles fought there as well, if there were dead midges, hordes of dead midges in the ground, decomposing, fertilizing the soil. I don't know. But to try to connect to the energy of the place by acknowledging the water, the gift that it gives us, how we are water, how we sweat water because it was hot. So where everyone's perspirating and dropping water into the earth. We're swimming in the water. We're drinking water. When we brush our teeth or wash our hands or go to the bathroom, there's water involved. So just this awareness, and the wind, the breeze moves the clouds, the birds fly on it, we breathe it. We are air. It's in our lungs. We are part wind, part water. We are elemental. And so this connective framing that they had at the festival was really powerful, and it landed in a deep way to help anchor at the beginning and at the end. So I was really grateful for that. And in that same vein, I noticed that there was a lot of animist ideas, which I was really excited to see. We attended workshops that were called kin-centric leadership, which sees the world around us not as some dead, inert, lifeless thing, as just an object, for us to exploit and extract, a backdrop that everything that we do happens upon. But no, an actual vast, ancient web of relationship and family. Because all life on the planet, science has proven, all life on the planet comes from the same ancestor, way back when, in the water. Again, the water. All life came from the water. We need the water. We are water. And so if all life came from the same source and shares an ancestor, we are all family. This isn't even esoteric woo-woo bullshit. This is actual scientific rigor and fact have proven this. So this was very present in the festival, in numerous workshops that we had attended, whether they were led by Hungarian people, Serbian people, people of other ethnic descents, or indigenous people. There were multiple very touching, 3 or 4 very touching, profound, beautiful workshops and spaces held by a group of indigenous elders and leaders and activists and ambassadors from all over the world. So the festival was great. I found myself so thankful and grateful to be in a place where there were people who are passionate and interested in the same things that I am, same things that we talk about here on this podcast. So from that perspective, it was great. And there was one moment that I wanted to share in particular that was especially resonant and profound for me. It was a workshop where we did a lot of things, but one of the things that we did after having a kind of little bit of a mini solo wander where you could encounter a non-human person and see if you could enter into a dialogue with it, which to some people might sound woo, but of course isn't if you put yourself into that space and you're just observing, interacting, listening, and opening yourself up to a more unique and simultaneously ancient experience. It's not so weird. So we had that experience. And then after that experience, a bunch of like placards or big cards with words on them were laid out on the floor. And we were supposed to kind of wander around them like we're walking through a labyrinth and just feel into what the words evoke. What are you feeling somatically in the body? Is there any imagery that it conjures? Thoughts, moods, associations, anything. And so it was kind of open-ended and sensate what we were doing there. And eventually we were told to stop wherever we were. And I happened to be in front of a card that said animacy and intelligence, which was perfectly fitting for me. So I was happy to be there. And the instruction that we were given next was to close your eyes, take a breath, center, root down, and take a step into the future, a symbolic step into the future. And actually, literally as well, because as you take that step, you are stepping into the future. And we were invited to imagine what a future would look like that really embodies and fully realizes the words that are on your card. So I did that, and I stepped forward and found myself in a teeming, brilliant, beautiful future where animist principles and the agency, intelligence, life, and spirit of all things were realized and revered, even respected, held sacred. And this was a profoundly, surprisingly powerful experience. I didn't expect anything to happen. A lot of times I go to workshops and I say, yeah, I understand why we're doing this. This could be fun. It could be interesting. Maybe I'll get a little insight. And yeah, I get it. I like the space holding. I like the idea. I like the themes, but I don't expect much. And that's how I went into this experience. But when I stepped into the future, when I took that giant leap for mankind into the future, it was like everything was breathing, and myself included, because I felt like I was a node in a vast series, a network of nodes stretching out through time and space and place. And everything was breathing, everything was humming, everything was electric. And the feeling was almost like MDMA. It was warm, disarming, connected, loving, safe. I had imagery of a world that revered things like water. Fundamental, elemental ancestors like water were revered and respected, and there wasn't waste. There was gratitude and appreciation and reverence for water, because water is the life giver here. We die faster without water than without food. Water is integral to life on this planet. And it felt that way. It felt godlike. In fact, everything felt godlike, because the trees were revered the same way. They're not just there giving shade and fruit, but oxygen. Most of the oxygen on this planet actually comes from water. It comes from our oceans. But trees are producing oxygen as well. And there's this interplay between us. There's this dialogue through our breath. We breathe out carbon dioxide. The trees breathe that in. And they breathe out oxygen, and we breathe that in. So there's this beautiful circularity there. And I was feeling into that. And I was seeing that in this world, people respected the trees, and they weren't, forests weren't just razed and leveled and destroyed for lumber and paper and all of our needs with impunity. Things were more carefully negotiated. Things were considered. Ecosystems were valued and prioritized and esteemed. And people treated each other better because people saw that we are nature too, that we are sacred beings, that we can be stewards to all of this and to each other. And so there was this sense of cooperation, collaboration, ease, beauty between people. I didn't have a sense of war, genocide, famine, aggression, selfishness, greed. These things were absent. And it was very strange. I felt like I was breathing for the first time. And then while all this was happening, I heard the workshop facilitator say, okay, now begin to ground yourself and step back into the past, which is the present, where we are now. And this was a kind of haunting, strange moment, because as I stepped back into the past, away from that future that I was peeking into and feeling into and seeing this wondrous, humming, breathing world, I stepped back into our world. And immediately I felt like lead. I felt like stuck and heavy and clogged and immobilized, like this concrete kind of feeling, and this constriction in my lungs, the suffocating feeling, this disconnected, collapsing inward, terrible feeling. And I was reminded of breath. And I felt this distinct feeling that in our culture, in our time, we aren't breathing. We've stopped breathing. And just to give some context around what I mean here, when we pull way back and we look at the history of the modern human, we can say that that extends roughly 300,000 years into the past. Our lineage and our ancestors go much further back than that, but the anatomically modern human is about 300,000 years old. And for something like 99, 97% of our existence, we were animists. Animism was the default cosmology. That this was how we understood the world and our place in it. We were kin. We were interconnected. Only recently, only in the last slice of our history have we deviated from that. And so when I say breathing, what it felt like to me was when I reached back further in time, there was the same breathing, humming, alive quality. And now, where we are in our history, in our journey, it's as though we have begun to hold our breath. Somehow, I don't know, it's like we want to see what happens if we hold our breath, or we've forgotten how to breathe because we're so nervous or distracted or afraid that we just forgot breathing. And what happens when you forget to breathe? It starts to feel claustrophobic. The heart starts beating faster. There's this impending sense of doom or fear, this yearning, this gasping feeling that just wants to take air in, wants to do what we're supposed to do, right? Breathing is a natural rhythm of our organism. Respiration is what we do. When you halt that process, the body responds to it with a lot of the feelings that we feel in our modern culture. It's disorienting. It's dizzying. Your heart's pounding. You're afraid. You're anxious. You don't know what to do. You feel lost. Something's wrong. These are all feelings that I hear and experience myself, they're floating around in our collective consciousness, it seems. And to have that experience there and have it in the safety of that place where I'm held by the earth, I'm held by the wind, by the sun, by the clouds, by the rain, everything that happened there. And with those people who are willing to be vulnerable and open and feel into that space, it was nourishing. It was sad and it was uncomfortable. And I felt like, wow, we need to start breathing again. And I still carry this kind of gasping feeling that we need to take air in. We need to start doing what's natural for us, because the world we've created right now is anything but natural, right? This world is a fucking abomination in terms of being natural. We have strayed from the grace of God, if you want to put it in those terms, quite a ways, I would say. And maybe that's part of the process. Maybe that's what we were supposed to do. In some theories, in some modalities or belief systems, getting lost is how you get found, right? So maybe we had to go adrift for a little while to remember certain things. If you are a fan of the DC Comics universe, I want to go way back to Christopher Nolan's first Batman movie, Batman Begins. Why do we fall? To learn to get back up. Something like that. But there is some truth in that. Making mistakes, experimenting, failing, it does help us learn how to be more resilient, what not to do. It instills wisdom. So maybe all of this is part of the plan. I don't know. But being in that stream, and that current, and that energy flow in this place where this was in the collective consciousness, it was in the field, and being able to speak with other people who are passionate about this, with workshop holders, with Indigenous people, it was really affirming. It validated something in me where I felt like, yeah, I'm on the right track. This is where I'm supposed to be digging. So it gave me a renewed sense of purpose and home and community, even. To feel like, yeah, I'm not alone in this. There are other people who are on the same scent, on the same trail. So to give you the quick summary of the Global Eco Village Network gathering, it was beautiful. I hope to go again. So many beautiful souls, so much talent and music and passion and play, and also important topics and raising awareness and deepening understanding and disseminating these things into, I keep saying the collective consciousness, but that's what it is, right? Because maybe some people had been exposed to these ideas for the first time at these workshops, and now they get the scent. And so this work is so, 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 so important, and I'm so thankful to the people there that are doing this work. And yeah, I think that's it for this episode. I've said a lot more than I wanted to say. It seems like I couldn't shut the fuck up. So I'm going to stop the ear beating and get out of this sweltering van that I'm recording this episode from and go find Asha somewhere on the lake before the nighttime swarm of midges come. Asha made a joke earlier that, the NGO that we founded is called The Living Bridge. And she said maybe we should rename it to The Living Midge because there's so many fucking midges here. So I want to go before I become the living midge when I walk out of the car and they just swarm me like Wicker Man. So be good to one another, be safe, try to stay midge free, and I will be back next time with maybe an interview, maybe a solo ramble. Who knows? I don't know where I'm going to be. I know we're going to Portugal for training and peacemaking sometime soon. So you'll hear a little bit more about that. We have a workshop coming up in September that I'm afraid we may not actually wind up holding because it's tricky to get participants for the autumnal equinox in a cold forest in Poland, even though we have a beautiful, amazing, great opportunity at a rare and incredible place to do it. But I'm afraid that we may not secure the number of people that we're hoping for. So we have some thinking to do about what our future plans are. And this is life in a van, right? We take it day by day, we see what happens, and everything is subject to change. So thanks for listening. I appreciate all of you. I'm thankful that I could share this journey with you. If you're liking the show, follow it, share it, tell your friends about it. And if you're hating the show, maybe tell the people that you hate about it. Inflict it on them, weaponize it, hurt them with it. I mean, I'm kidding, but yeah, maybe experiment with that. Share it with people you like and people you hate.